Hi everyone, welcome to Cyber Witch. I'm Bishop Orley, and this is my channel about the occult, demonology, and my life as a professional witch here in New Orleans. So if that sounds good to you, then please hit like and subscribe. Today I'm getting into how we can develop our abilities to communicate with spirits, with demonic forces, whatever kind of preternatural intelligences that you're trying to develop a relationship with, and have some actual real communication with things from non-ordinary reality and developing your psychic abilities. And we have a lot of ground to cover today. First though, I'm going to start with how Astral Squid took down my Discord server, which is related to this completely. So one thing that happens to people all the time is that we are constantly being bombarded with messages from different forces, all kinds of stuff that doesn't necessarily have our best interest in mind or even care at all. And the more that you develop your psychic senses and open yourself up to being receptive to feeling and experiencing the forces that are around you, you are going to sense and very often pick up on these kind of things. And so this is very essential to think about, because when we're doing witchcraft or a ritual and we're actually choosing to call a spirit around us, that's one thing, but these entities can communicate to us outside of ritual, especially if we're developing ourselves to be open to receiving such things. So I had a Discord server that was for this channel and for my Patreon several years ago. I no longer have the Discord server and I shut it down. And the reason why I shut my Discord server down is because of Astral Squid. Because people on my Discord server created this whole mass hysteria. So what can happen when you are trying to communicate and open yourself up psychically to whatever wants to come through without having any kind of teachers to watch over you, guide you, without having any kind of system that has proven to actually work to make contact with things that can help you. It can be extremely, extremely dangerous, and all different kinds of things can come through and they can take on all different kinds of forms. So it doesn't even mean like the thing actually is what you're perceiving. And it can be very, very easy for people that are really wanting to have a spiritual experience, wanting to have something paranormal happen to them, some kind of vision, like people that are like desperate to have like magic manifest in their lives. They really want something to happen, so they can be easily preyed on by this kind of stuff if you don't know what you're doing. And a lot of the times I'm going to tell y'all about things that you probably don't want to hear, and maybe it will upset you, but frankly, I don't really care, because I have been doing this for over 20 years and I really just want to help people and share my experiences. So it's very important to think about what you're actually doing with the information that you're getting from these spirits, from these experiences, and is it actually benefiting your life? So if you're having some kind of paranormal experience, just as the people were on my Discord server, where they started having these experiences of someone started experiencing these astral squid, and it developed into this mass hysteria where other people started saying that they were having the astral squid come into their lives and bombard them and control them. And it became very disturbing, because it wasn't something that was caused by people doing any kind of magic. It was caused by someone implanting an idea in the Discord server to people that were really open and receptive to magic, open to spirits communicating to them. And then it's so easy for these delusions to come in. More often than not, the kind of things that we're going to be experiencing as we go through our day, unless you are a psychic medium and are really training on spirit communication, and not just like on your psychic mind, but also taking care of your body and taking care of yourself and your health, then you can have easier channels of spirit communication. But more often than not, the things that will come in our mind are forces that are trying to dissuade us, trying to trick you, trying to pretend something, trying to evoke some kind of emotion out of you, or pretend to be something that it's not. And there's a really big problem now with how popular the occult is. So many people think they're having these really powerful demons and different entities just coming to them in their lives, and everyone thinks like how incredibly special they are to have such powerful forces just come in their life and just start talking to them in their heads. And it's like, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about hearing voices in your head. Just because we are doing this as witches in magic, it doesn't mean that just hearing voices in your head is good, okay? So you have to make sure that the things that you're hearing are things that are actually helping you. So just like my Discord server, where people were having these experiences and other people just started thinking about it, instead of it being something like, oh, this is actually something that no one is benefiting from, let's cut ourselves off from this and not entertain our thought space and let these things in. It was like everybody needs to get involved in this whole situation. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm shutting it down. I'm shutting it down. And I shut down my Discord server, and I'll never make one ever again. And I don't have time to be like moderating these kind of situations. And people need to develop their own discernment of forces that are coming into their lives and in their minds. Like, for example, something that happens quite often to people is they'll watch a whole bunch of my YouTube videos, and then they'll have like a dream about me or something, or like feel my energy. And it's like, yeah, of course, you were literally just watching me for a whole bunch of time and having my energy from the video. So of course you're going to be having that residual thing. Am I consciously, consensually choosing to do that? Absolutely not. I don't have time to do that. But it's really important to develop these kind of helpful ways of thinking about spiritual situations. So is the thing that I'm hearing, the vision that I'm having, this communication that I'm getting from the spirits, is it something that's actually helping me and benefiting my life? Because there are so many people that love the idea of talking to spirits, demons, whatever we're going to call them, but it's not helping. So if it's not actually making your life better from the information that you're receiving, then you are being deceived by things that are way too easily coming to you, because this stuff is hard. And that's just the fact of the matter. We can all be born with gifts. Like I was born with different psychic gifts, abilities to see spirits and things like that. But I absolutely have to continuously develop and train myself to be able to do this. Do I have forces come in to my mind like through the day and try to give me miscommunications? 100%. But us as witches need to develop some kind of understanding of what's going on in our own selves and within our own minds to know and decipher what forces are coming through. And if it's something that we know, if it's something foreign, what is it? Is it our own thoughts? And the way that this starts is understanding yourself, getting to know yourself, who you are, your own mind. So I'm going to give you some really helpful tips and tricks today to develop your psychic abilities, to communicate with spirits, and to help you to get messages from them that are actually going to help you to change your life and to help in your exploration of understanding these fascinating forces that are all around us and are really uncharted waters in so many ways. So it's really wonderful for people to get into this and learn about it if you're going to do the work and take the time to do it in a way where it's not going to make you go mad, and it's not going to ruin your life, and it's not going to make you start just listening to whatever forces are pulling you around, because this world is really sick and full of a lot of negative energy and forces that are always trying to make us sad and afraid and scared and angry. And so if you pay attention to that, you'll start to get to know like what is you and what is the world around you influencing you. That's a really great place to start. It's understanding your own mind and what's going on in your mind. So a good way of doing that is to start practicing meditation. And that's not something that is supposed to be easy. None of these things that I'm going to tell you today are things that are easy, because if we're doing only things that are easy, this is how we get the problems of having these forces come in that are trying to trick us and deceive us because we were being lazy and trying to have things be like an anime or a movie, and just think that if we buy a bunch of things or say a certain an or spell, then suddenly everything is just going to be magic and we're going to have a message from a demon come to us and it's going to be like some back and forth conversation. I mean, unless you're somebody that is really developed psychically, it's super, super not easy to just start doing that. It actually takes quite a bit of work and training, but that's supposed to be fun. Like, if you like this stuff, this should be fun for you to do. You should enjoy it. And the whole process of the journey is a really beautiful and delightful thing to behold and experience as you see yourself grow and evolve and get to understand our very strange reality even further. So the first things you're really going to want to think about are, what are you doing to your own self outside of doing rituals to conjure the spirits, to help train yourself to be open to psychic communication? So one thing that's really important to think about first is thinking about like your diet, because that's going to affect how you feel. And a really important sense in spirit communication is how you feel. And if you're feeling really yucky from eating unhealthy food, or feeling really tired or inebriated, it can be very difficult to sense things because that's distracting you. So that's really, really helpful to think about, and making it so the environment around you isn't full of other energies that are also going to be distracting you. So for example, if you have stuff that has like a lot of intense energy or emotions to it, that when you look at it, it distracts you, you should probably take that away from your ritual area so you're not looking at it, or you could cover it up or put it in a cupboard or something. All of this stuff is going to help you focus. The entire purpose of arranging and curating a ritual space is to make it so your mind becomes more open to receive the messages of the spirits around you, and to cause you to get into a different mindset outside of the normal mundane world. So it can be really great to focus on doing as many things as you can before you even go to try to call spirits to communicate with you that are going to develop your energy. So for example, doing different exercises where you align yourself to the sun and the moon. So any kind of thing where you're going and you're spending time, maybe saying some prayers to different spirits at different times of day, like Libra Resh, where it follows the sun through the different quarters of the day. And the idea behind it that Crowley wrote was it helps the magician to align themselves with the current of the day. So when you do these prayers at the different times, you actually will start sensing, oh, it's morning now, it's afternoon. You can feel the rhythm of the day change, and you can feel and sense the psychic energy of the day changing and moving. These things open you up more to having spirits be able to communicate to you. Another thing too, before we go on, like I mentioned in our previous video, which was about seeing spirits, and today we're talking about communicating and getting messages. It doesn't mean your ritual didn't work if you don't have a vision of a spirit, or if you don't have communication to the spirit. Sometimes they don't want to talk. Sometimes you're not ready. Sometimes the stars are just not right for that to come through, but it does not mean that the spell didn't work. So that's something that is separate, and these are different skills that add into the spell. Like doing a spell and getting a spell to work is like step one, and then getting a message from the spirit is like step two, and then seeing the spirit, I would call that step three in terms of like development of your psychic skills. So don't try to like force yourself to be able to do everything at once. Realize this is something that actually does take time to develop if you're serious about it. I'm here explaining this to you, and it took me a long time to develop these skills, many, many years. And that's okay. And that's actually normal. So don't worry about it, and go at whatever pace works and enjoy the process of growing and evolving, because the fact of the matter is it's very extremely strange to have these kind of changes happen to you where you do develop spirit communication skills, psychic abilities, and it can be very difficult to handle if you are just having all these things come into you at one time. A lot of people also will ask me as a question on my channel, like all the time, can someone do a spell for you to just suddenly activate all of your psychic abilities? I could see someone doing a spell for you to cause that for a bit, but would it last forever? No, because this is something that takes work to develop and completely like change yourself in a molecular spiritual way. This is not something that you just like switch on or off. It's like you have to go through a whole process of changing your brain to be open to sensing things that you weren't able to before. So that's really important. And when you're going to have your communication with the spirit and you want to help open yourself up even more, it can be really great to do things like cleanse yourself first. So that way you don't have any energies on you that are getting in the way of your ability to communicate with the spirit. Another thing that people don't often know about is that there are different factors in regards to the moon and the planets and the timing of conjuring and contacting different spirits to be able to reach them. So it completely depends on whatever system you're working with. So I can't give you an answer in this video for any particular thing, but the planets are associated to the different days of the week, as well as there's different planetary hours through the day that are in concert with different planetary forces and of energies. So if you're working with a spirit that is associated to a certain planetary energy, even the demons in the Ars Goetia, their different rankings are associated to planets. So like the kings are associated to the sun, for example. Those have different times that are better for them to be conjured. Just as with the different phases of the moon. So it really depends on what system you're working with. And if you don't know, then you should totally do more work to learn about it and then go with that. Or if you are experimenting, make sure that you write things down in a journal so you know when you did them, what things you did, what worked and what didn't work, and you will definitely thank yourself later, as well as anything that does happen. And this is also the great place to write down any of the communication that you have with the spirits. And this is going to take us into what happens when you are actually doing some kind of ritual evocation and are calling a spirit, conjuring the spirit, and asking them to communicate to you. Because in the previous parts of this video, we're talking about more like passive open communication, forces just coming in our minds. And that happens, especially after you have done some really big, beautiful rituals for spirits. They will be around you. They will know who you are. They'll remember you. They'll be able to come to you. But if you have never contacted a spirit before, it is extremely rare for some super powerful demon or spirit to just come to people and start communicating and talking to you. Very often that's going to be something that is tricking you. The way to tell is, has it completely helped and benefited my life? And the answer to that is probably no. It's usually probably caused a lot of confusion, maybe some promises that weren't fulfilled. Maybe it's given you some little things along the way. But ultimately, it does take some work to make sure what you're doing is actually something that is helping you, because something tricking you could go on forever. It could completely take over your whole life, continuing to pretend to be different things if you haven't learned about spiritual hygiene and how to take care of yourself in a spiritual and physical way, and working together with all of those things in order to be able to be strong in your magic. Because otherwise, all these kind of forces are just going to come in and mess with you, pretend to be spirits that you think you've even conjured, because you've let your guard down and you haven't developed that discernment to know what is actually communicating to me. And if I don't know, how do I call up the spirit in a way that I know 100% is actually going to reach that spirit? And then I can ask the spirit, hey, was that you? Or do you have some message for me that you were trying to reach? And then get a clear and very helpful answer to that. So let's get into now actually trying to conjure spirits and getting messages from them in our rituals. When you are doing a spiritual ritual or ceremony, one thing that's really important to think about is to not rush things. The whole purpose of doing these ceremonies is to help us to transcend, remove the veils, as it were, of reality into non-ordinary reality, to alter the space around us, to alter our minds into something that is going to be receptive of spirits coming through. So one of the main things that people come to me for help with and ask me about in consultations is they've done some kind of spell and they're not really feeling anything, and they don't know how to communicate to the demon or the spirit or whatever it is. This is typically because not enough has been done to cause this transformation. So you really want to add in more. So let's say there's a spell you really like and want to do, but it's not giving you that experience. That's okay. Add more into your ritual. So have more of an opening, do more invocations, do more elaborate movements, walk around in a circle, do more chanting. Spend as much time as you can to recite things that give you power when you say them. Things that are going to build up your energy, your personal energy first. Poems even, reciting anything that when you recite it, it makes you feel more powerful. And there are so many really great spells to do that. One of my personal favorites is the Invocation of the Bornless One. It's a fantastic preliminary invocation to do before conjuring spirits, for example. If you would like a more very in-depth and professional step-by-step video course that teaches you how to conjure demons through my methods in a way that is working in union with the demonic spirits through the Ars Goetia, you can find that linked in the description of this video if you want to learn how to conjure demons step by step with me. But for the sake of today's talk, the idea is you already know what you're going to do for your spell, and you're trying to develop that sense of the communication with the spirit. So add in more. I'll always have an extra stack of like books and poems and incantations, invocations that I can add in to what I'm doing if I'm not feeling like a bit of a shift. You're going to notice something has changed. It's hard to exactly explain in human words, but you will notice there is some kind of shift in feeling and atmosphere that happens once you're ready to then call the spirit. And sometimes it requires us to call on other spirits that are easier to call and then ask them to help us, for example, depending on what your practice is. So when you recite the incantations to call the spirit to you and you feel a spirit is around you, how do you have communication with them? Well, the way that people might think at first is like having a voice in your head that is the spirit's voice. Or maybe you might think that like you're going to hear out loud, like an auditory sound that's the spirit talking to you. That's extremely rare, okay? So when you have a spirit communicating to you, typically it's going to be psychically, so in your mind's eye. And the way that it works for me personally is it's not really so much as like a voice that I hear, but it's a voice that I feel. And when you have spent time alone, getting to know your own self and your own voice, and getting to spend time with other spirits, maybe even if you have other spirits around you that you've already worked with, who they are, then you'll get to feel like the differences in these spiritual voices that come in. And the whole idea is if you have done a whole bunch of work, planning your ritual, doing all these steps to call the spirit, following systems of ritual magic that you know are actually real and work before you just start experimenting with things, then you'll be able to get in contact with powerful forces that can communicate back and forth to you and give you helpful messages. If you're just only experimenting and you never do this and learn how to do it, it's so easy to get tricked and your life just falls apart and goes downhill and you get fed upon until there's nothing left. And it's very unfortunate, and I see it happen all the time. And it's something that I help counsel people with in consultations on my website. If you do need direct help from me one-on-one to talk on a call or email, please go to my website and you can reserve a time with me for that. So one of the things that's really important is to figure out like, what is the way that is best for you to have spirits communicate to you in a style that you like? So some things could be using different methods of spirit communication. My personal favorite author who established many things is Austin Osman Spare, and he developed a lot of books on automatic writing, automatic drawing. And the whole idea is when we are experiencing gnosis messages from the spirit world, it will come through us in some beneficial way that we can get some sort of image or message from. And it's going to be connecting to the part of us that is like through the source of all information. So you can have something to write down and ask the spirit to guide your hand. And the idea behind automatic writing, like Austin Osman Spare explains and teaches, is you really don't want to be thinking about it. Like you don't want to think about what you're writing. You just let it flow. And the same with the automatic drawing. You just start making shapes and movements after conjuring these spirits around you and let them just flow through you without thinking too hard. One thing that helps me is if I am getting a message through automatic writing, I'll ask the demon or spirit or whatever it is to guide my hand. And then as I write, I'll say it out loud. So I'll like write down the and I'll say the. And for some reason that helps keep it flowing. And it also helps me to not think. So I'll write what the spirit makes me feel word by word and then say it out loud and then just go to the next one without even thinking about it, without looking back at what I'm reading. And then you can do the same thing with illustrations. So doing something like that and then looking at it later, meditating on it, seeing what it brings out of you can be the message. Very often these things are beyond our understanding and you might understand it later. And that's fine. But having a back and forth conversation is going to be much easier the more you practice this and the more you practice sitting in meditation, because then you can sit in meditation after you've called your spirit and wait until some vision or some message comes to you, because you have developed those parts of yourself that are strong enough to sit in meditation and be open to that because you've spent a lot of time doing it, and practice doing it without all this pressure on yourself of doing it to communicate to the spirit. Or try practicing it in a very simple way, like every day when you wake up, light a candle to the spirit and then sit in meditation for 5 or 10 minutes and then write down whatever comes to your mind. That will drastically develop your psychic ability with that spirit. Other things that work super well are to use tools of divination. So my personal favorite is the tarot, and I have an entire amazing tarot course that's specifically designed to teach you how to read tarot cards with any deck and to develop your psychic abilities with the cards so you can use them to conjure spirits and also to get messages from spirits. So you could have your tarot cards and then pull them out after you've conjured the spirit and ask the spirit for a message, and then have those tarot cards be the message that the spirit gives you. And then you can learn what that means and what it evokes from within you. So that's another really fantastic method. It's super important to not be just like sitting there in your room or in the dark, whatever you're doing, and kind of just going nuts and making stuff up, right? Because that's super dangerous. That's not what we're trying to do. We're applying a lot of methods that have been developed over time, things that are very, very sacred, and they take work and effort. So one of the things that I was taught at first was have ways of testing the information that you're getting. So instead of just even having something that you're writing down like a question and answer, you could write your questions in a code. And this is something that one of my teachers taught me, and it's a method that I have taught before on this channel, and I also teach it in the demon summoning course on my website as well in more details. But the idea is put your messages and your questions in different codes, and then you jumble it up so you don't even know like what you're asking the spirit at the time, and then you can get answers from the spirit using different codes, like with the Kabbalah or Gematria, for example, as a reference point. And then that way, if the spirit has said an answer that actually ends up being related and a direct answer to what you asked, you know that this is something that is far beyond you and your own intelligence, because this powerful spirit should be able to do that. And it's not disrespectful to do this. The idea is you're doing it in a respectful way, but you are making sure that your own mind isn't going to be suggesting things in the answer. And that way it really takes that step out of your control, and it can be so amazing. It's one of the ways that I first started developing my connection to working with demons, because I wanted to see like, what's up with this? Like, how real is this? And I did it through these methods, and I was absolutely mind blown at how it would answer the questions that I was asking when I didn't even know what question I was asking. And then I would go back later, look at what I had written down, and everything lined up perfectly, and it was just amazing. And of course, the most important thing is what you're getting from this experience helping you in your life over time So keep track of what you're doing, journal about it, work on your book of shadows, your spiritual magical diary, and see, what did I get from this? How has it changed me and changed my life? Do I need to change what I'm doing? And so hopefully that gives you some ideas on how to start developing your psychic abilities. When it comes to things like our intuition, when we are psychically right about something, once we hold on to that feeling of knowing when we're right, it's so much easier to recapture it. So it's something that you really just want to keep developing over time and practicing and find joy in doing that. So if you have some more suggestions for people, please feel free to leave those in the comments below so we can help each other out. And if you would like direct help from me or to check out my video courses or any of my other spiritual services, all that stuff is linked below on my website. Thank you so much to all of my channel members and my patrons. And subscribe if you're new and give this video a little like for a kiss to the algorithm. And I'll see you next time. Bye.